The Lawnmower Man had removed his clothes. Every stitch. They were folded neatly in the empty bird bath that was at the center of the back lawn. Naked and grass-stained, he was crawling along about 5 feet behind the mower, eating the cut grass. Green juice ran down his chin and dripped onto his pendulous belly, and every time the lawnmower whirled around a corner, he rose and did an odd, skipping jump before prostrating himself again. "Stop!" Harold Parkett screamed. "Stop that!" But the Lawnmower Man took no notice, and his screaming scarlet familiar never slowed. If anything, it seemed to speed up. Its Dick's steel grill seemed to grin sweatily at Harold as it raved by. Then Harold saw the mole. It must have been hiding in stunned terror just ahead of the mower, in the swath of grass about to be slaughtered. It bolted across the cut band of lawn toward safety under the porch, a panicky brown streak. The lawnmower swerved. Blatting and howling, it roared over the mole and spat it out in a string of fur and entrails that reminded Harold of the smith's cat. The mole destroyed, the lawnmower rushed back to the main job. The Lawnmower Man crawled rapidly by, eating grass. Harold stood paralyzed with horror, stocks, bonds, and bison burgers completely forgotten. He could actually see that huge pendulous belly expanding. The Lawnmower Man swerved and ate the mole. That was when Harold Parkett leaned out the screen door and vomited into the zinnias. The world went gray, and suddenly he realized he was fainting, had fainted. He collapsed backward onto the porch and closed his eyes. That is from Stephen King's The Lawnmower Man. Jim, explain yourself.
Split Tooth Media and the Cinesthesia podcast present a special daily October podcast. Hell to the king.
Hey, win!
Waiting for this? Is this what you're looking for?
Sure.
Because this is what I'm there to give you.
So I've been working on setting up that and exactly how I want to do it. Taking a lot of inspiration from Linda Berry lately. I don't know if you've looked at her stuff or read. Have you read like Syllabus or What It Is and Picture This? You should read both of those. Those are she has just some amazing insights. Just in art production in period.
Just sort of
humanity
and existence.
Oh, God, yeah, I've just been enamored of her stuff. God.
Jim, are you doing a podcast with another man? Oh my God, is that my father?
Hello, I'm Jason's father. I'm responsible for this mess. And talking about responsibilities for anything, Jim, why the hell are you insisting that we review this particular film? This has nothing to do with Stephen King, except for a lawsuit.
It's
and the untimely, loss of rights to a story that was never used in production of the film. So go ahead, explain yourself.
Well,
I'm listening.
You are being 500 times as loud as during the sound test, so I'm going to move the microphone back down to the ground.
Do I need to walk away?
No, you're fine. During the sound test, he stood here, and he was very calm. Just going to move it down here.
Okay.
And then you can make Jim explain himself.
Well, listen, that was just the height of it right there. I think I'll be very calm and sedate from now on.
Oh, sure, yeah.
Because there's nothing you guys will say that will upset me whatsoever.
Someone's hacking the mainframe from the outside. They're in, and they're running a computer virus that's placing triple key encryption codes on all outside access and network connections.
What the fuck does that mean?
Here, my real excuse for this whole shenanigan, Jem, is that I was born dumb.
I was born dead.
I'm glad to see you haven't changed. Upholding the fine standards you set over the years.
Did you guys find the short film version of this online? And when I say this, I mean of Lawnmower Man, the short Stephen King story.
Do you just mean the theatrical version of this film versus the director's cut that's an hour longer?
No, I mean the 1987 short film, also called The Lawnmower Man, that's based on the short story The Lawnmower Man.
No, never heard of it.
You check it out. I watched that, and it's way worse. It's like 12 minutes long, and if that passage is the story, it is accurate.
Yeah, I remember I watched this film back when it first came out.
Really?
And despised it. Yeah.
Because
I thought
you thought it was going to be a Stephen King movie.
Yeah, well, I read the story,
Sure.
but it's been like 40 years since I read the story, so I'm going like, I remember enough of it at the time when this movie came out, which is what, 92, something like that. Yeah. And I just thought this has nothing to do whatsoever with the Stephen King story, which was born to fruit when he sued to have his name taken off of it.
Sure. It becomes apparent at that point.
But they did throw in all these little things that referenced other King movies.
Yes. Well, that's what... Because it's like they're explicitly working for the shop, right? Which is...
Yes, right.
Which is at least where... Firestarter.
Firestarter, yes. Yeah.
There's a bunch of references that they put in, but it is interesting because you definitely raked me over the coals based on the fact that Stephen King's name did not appear in the credits of The Devil's Gift. And I will say, at least on current video versions of The Lawnmower Man, his name does not appear there either.
Well, it did originally, Jason. It did originally.
It's true, he had to sue them twice.
Illegally.
Yeah.
Yes, they did sue him twice, yes.
We should start doing that with people. We should start making terrible films and being like, based on Agatha Christie. Yeah. She can't sue us, she's dead.
Yeah. Well, one of the things I was going to say about this one, though, it seemed that it was more of a later adaptation of the film Charlie, which was based on Flowers for Algernon, Daniel Keyes.
Yeah.
And it seemed to have more in common with that than it did with anything that Stephen King ever wrote. That crossed over with some sort of Lovecraftian, elder world type of thing, because he moves into this whole thing like the Outer Dark and the Cthulhu mythos, or the Cthulhu mythos.
Except it's all computers.
It's all computers. A high tech,
specifically 1992 digital animation computer.
Well, so Jason, that's what
that was good.
I was excited. Do you remember when we watched Children of the Corn? And there was the monster in that is pixels that float in the air. In this movie, it's
basically just a digital effect.
But in this movie, it's explicitly that. They want it to be that. You know?
Yeah.
Because this is from that same era where we're sort of on the cusp of early digital effects and really nice practical effects. And most of the movies, I feel like, in this era that blend the two are upsetting, like Lord of Illusions. I think we've talked about that before. Where it's sometimes things are practical and they're beautiful, and sometimes things are digital and they're just really unpleasant to look at. Yes. But in this movie, the digital things they look how they're supposed to look, and then when they like need blisters on his hands or a miniature building to explode, they do it practically, and it's super nice, I thought.
Yeah. Oh no, I thought it was very nice. I liked it too because the simpler, more primitive effects, digital effects. I don't even know if you could call it CGI at this point in time. But,
you could, because all that means is computer-generated imagery.
Yeah, I guess it is. I guess so, yeah.
It's not the way we use it now, really. But
it's not the way you use it now, but it's more akin to, the stop-motion stuff of, like, Harryhausen and Willis and stuff like that, because... it gives that more dreamlike effect. So I think it was much more effective in that way.
I agree.
Than a lot of stuff that we have nowadays. This film was kind of bonkers. I kind of liked it the second time around. Yeah. And
I liked it a lot too.
Yeah. Good. I'm glad we're on the same page.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm definitely gonna edit this so that I'm gonna keep like being grumpy at you for a few minutes,
of course.
And then I'll have to eat some crow because this movie is awesome.
It is. It's not Stephen King. We can agree on that.
No.
It's Stephen King fan fiction for sure, but not.
Possibly, I don't know.
It has because it has those elements, right? It has the shop, and it has some other stuff. They pull some things,
which was dropped in after the fact on a different script, right?
If
I understand correctly,
that's what Jason says, which makes me wonder. There's so much lawnmower stuff just shoved into it.
Yes.
That means if they had made this without trying to make it into a Stephen King project, there wouldn't be like that weird slumber party massacre scene where he kills that kid's dad with a lawnmower, right?
Yeah, that wasn't in there.
Which is so good. I'm so glad that they tried to make it.
That's all actually specifically from... That's the one part they took most faithfully from the story, is the description of how the lawnmower chases Harold Parkett around the room.
It's so good.
And they named that guy Harold Parkett, which is the guy in the story.
He's the main character in the story.
Yeah, and the one line, what was the line out of there about the bird bath?
Oh, yeah.
Right,
When they do his remains.
Oh, yeah, the cops.
The bit in the story
cops.
where they're like, where's the rest of them?
Yeah,
and the guy's like, bird bath. That's also from the story.
Yeah, that's from the written work. Yeah.
So they took the short story and made it just a background. It's like a C story in this film.
Yes.
Sort of.
What a weird way to do an adaptation.
Well, also, it's weird because it completely... I don't think their original story had a lawnmower in it.
Oh, yeah. Oh, there's... right, and that's what I'm saying is I'm glad that they decided to shove Lawnmower Man into this. Because everything with the lawnmower is so good.
I agree.
Well, Jason made a point when we were talking about it at one point. He goes, yeah, I think they were just trying to justify using the title Lawnmower Man so they could make this movie. And so they had to figure out some way to work that in and then go off this other script that they had already, which was, what was it called? Cyber God?
God
or something like that? Yeah.
I'm so glad that this wasn't just Cyber God.
Yeah,
Cyber God probably would have been good, but this movie is so goo bananas.
It is.
Because it's just 8 things shoved together.
Yeah, you got Charlie, Lawnmower Man, and Cyber God, and it's just like... The only thing you didn't have was the regression.
So it's been about 6 or 7 minutes. Should we actually start the podcast?
I believe it's happened, the beginning.
Yeah.
No, I just meant actually with words.
Oh,
that's usually about our. That's about our track record. It's starting about 6 or 7 minutes in.
I've listened to a few.
Sometimes 20.
You can start it now, but you have to start it in the style of Pierce Brosnan recording a sweaty, shirtless monologue.
Oh, okay.
Wait, can we talk for a second? Hi, it's Hell to the King, and we're doing Lawnmower Man because Jim made us because he's dumb, but also it's a good movie, so whatever. Hello, everyone. Can we talk about Pierce Brosnan's accent for a minute?
Yeah, yes.
Because it's all over the place, and I was convinced at the beginning that he also was trying to do a bad man accent.
Do you think he just
Stephen
starts and then
Mocked from
gives
Graveyard
up?
Shift?
Do you think that's what happens?
That's what it feels like.
But
I can't tell.
For most of the movie, just has his, I assume, natural British accent.
Yeah, most of the time he's just Brosnaning.
Yeah.
But towards the beginning, it kind of sounds like he's trying to smush his mouth into something approximating at least an American accent, but maybe a Maine accent.
But is that also... He's also drinking a lot of whiskey at the beginning? Is that him pretending to be drunk? I truly don't know.
Oh, yeah, that could be. Yeah,
because he does.
Seems to be heavy on substance abuse. Yes,
his wife shows up 3 times in this movie to get mad at him for not bringing him to the city, and then to leave him.
Oh.
And then at the very end of the movie to be a robot sim, and then the rest of the movie she's gone.
Wait.
So, yeah, because there's that thing where they dropped in the I'm give up, stuff.
Yeah. But no, the robot sim part.
Oh, robot sim.
You had the robot sim part?
Yes.
What was the robot sim?
Where did you get your cut from? Because that's not in the theatrical cut we watched.
Oh,
it's only in the director's cut.
I watched the
in which
director's
she
cut.
shows up a bunch more.
I'm going to tell you, I've watched this movie maybe 4 times, and I've only ever watched the extended cut. I've never watched.
Oh, you watched the director's cut?
Yeah.
Okay. We did not. We watched the theatrical cut, in which the wife leaves him,
and then never comes
they
back.
drop in an ADR line of her going, "I give up" in somebody else's voice, and then she never shows up again.
Yeah.
She leaves, and then he immediately has a conversation with the guy who I guess is the main character in the story's wife. And I was like, oh, Pierce Brosnan and that lady with the son. Because they have the conversation where he's like, oh, I wish I had a son. And she's like, you can borrow my son anytime. And I was like, oh, they're going to be married now.
Also not in the theatrical cut.
Oh, really?
Which was another thing we were watching. We were like, wow, it seems like they have a much closer relationship at the end of the film than is ever justified in the film.
Yeah, because at the end, he's like, give me your car, drive me there. And she's
Yeah, that's
like,
right. That's why
"Come
we
with me."
figured something had been going on that did not show up in the film.
Okay,
would've been fun.
so
might
this
have
is
helped.
going to be even more of a mess than
Okay.
it would normally be
Because
because
we
we're
watched
talking about two
different
movies.
Yes,
Well, here's the
okay.
thing we can all talk about is Pierce Brosnan's men's casual 1990s fashion, where
Oh.
he wears giant baggy shirts and then khakis, sometimes khaki shorts, leather jackets, big thick socks, giant boots. What a dream
Yeah.
boy.
Exactly.
Mostly no shirt.
Mostly no shirt most of the time.
We can also talk about, we did all see the early scenes with the wife, and I
Yeah.
do want to spend just a second talking about
How mad
so
she is
this
to even
movie
take her to the
actually
city.
let's go back all the way
Take
to
her
the
to the
beginning
city, right, yeah.
because this movie has a very strange tonal dichotomy right from the get.
Yes.
Yeah.
So just in case anybody's joining us now here, it's been almost 12 minutes.
You best have watched The Lawnmower Man because we're not giving you details.
This is Hell to the King, and we are talking about The Lawnmower Man.
And
It's me,
everyone's
Jason,
mad at Jim.
And Jim. And my dad, Jem Michelitch.
Hi, Jem.
Say hello to the nice people, Dad.
Hello, nice people.
You don't know they're nice.
Well, he's only
I-
talking to the nice ones.
Oh, yeah. If you're mean, get out of here.
I'm following
Okay.
my stage direction from my son right now.
So Jim made me
After
watch
that,
this movie,
you're right.
and so I made my dad watch this movie.
Yeah.
Even though, as we've established, it's not a Stephen King movie.
paying it
except
forward.
it sort of sometimes is, and we could talk about that
It
again
really
later.
wants to be, Jason. Here's the
Well,
thing.
it-
We
it
had to
also,
watch The
by the-
Devil's Gift, which sort of is, but is trying so hard to pretend it's not. So I feel like this is a perfect counterpoint of a movie that wants so badly. It's Pinocchio real boying itself into being a Stephen King movie.
Yeah. And
It's
which
not
is-
based on anything that Stephen King wrote, but it's trying so hard.
Well, and
You're doing
also,
real good, man. That's close to a good justification for this. You to refine that a little bit more later on.
I'll keep boiling it down.
We'll revisit it.
Okay.
Okay.
well, also by the practices of adaptation in Hollywood, this is not the most extreme
Sure.
departure from a source material I've ever
Sure.
read, which is amazing given that it was not originally written from the source material.
Right. But they went through, they took a pass. I feel like sometimes you get
Yeah.
this story of someone had a script and then they just threw another thing's name on it and you get Super Mario 3, right? There's a movie version
Yeah.
of that. Not like of Super Mario 3, but there's a better movie example, but that's the one in my brain.
I think
Where-
you mean
where-
Super Mario 2.
Sure, Doki Doki Panic, where none of the details connect with the other Mario games, right? And you're like, oh,
Yeah.
this is clearly not. But in this one, they at least took a
Yeah,
pass.
or you get an Exorcist 3.
They went through and did a rewrite. You shut your mouth. Exorcist 3 is the best Exorcist.
I'm not disputing that, but they made them put Exorcist on it.
Yeah, well,
Didn't they
that's
do
true.
that with a Halloween
For Blatty,
movie
right?
too?
Because they were like, we're not
Halloween
going to pay
3?
for your dumb movie unless you... Well,
Yeah, but that was intended for the beginning
Oh.
because Carpenter wanted to turn it into an anthology series.
in the
Oh,
Halloween
well,
series,
okay.
Halloween 2 is the goof up. Because they should have gone straight into making it an anthology, but Carpenter was like, I didn't make money with Halloween, so I'm just going to make it again.
Yeah, and get paid this time.
Yeah.
Anyway, so we're talking about the Lawnmower Man, and this movie opens, Jim.
Yeah.
This movie opens.
Sure does.
With one of my favorite things that we've watched, which is a chimpanzee hooked into a virtual reality system in
Yes.
which it is taught to murder people, and then it breaks out and murders people for real.
Yeah.
But still sees everything as if it is in a virtual reality system. I could watch Video Murder Chimp
Yes.
for conservatively 4 straight days.
Agreed. You're welcome.
So it cuts from Video Murder Chimp
Yeah.
to Pierce Brosnan having domestic troubles
Yes.
in some of the worst acted human scenes
Yes.
I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah.
And I just want to reserve a moment here. This is really all I was building to. A special attention to the wife's line delivery.
Yes.
The wife who is played by... I want to give her credit because this line delivery is actually amazing.
It is.
Colleen Coffey.
Colleen Coffey.
When she comes down and says, "You were supposed to take me to the city."
Yes.
And Pierce Brosnan says indignantly, "Well, why didn't you remind me?"
Yeah.
She summons up all the fury within her,
Yeah.
gets very quiet, and hisses, "I did."
Yeah.
And it is tonally completely in a different universe from
Yes.
anything else in the movie.
She never is in this movie. She's always
Quite
in her
literally
own
in the theatrical
film. Well, yeah, she is mostly not in it she's on the cutting room floor, or they just never shot anything with her. But even when she's there, she is on a level that is...
Yeah.
I mean, Pierce Brosnan, I would say, I think career-wide, Pierce Brosnan is never giving more than 60%. And I feel like he's peaking out in this film. He's hitting the maximum amount of energy he's ever going to throw down. I might be wrong about that. I haven't watched that much Pierce Brosnan. But that's the impression that I get.
I'd have to think about it more, and I'm not going to.
Yeah, don't. Just let my fact be a fact. But I do feel like everyone in this movie is throwing everything they can at the screen. Like Jeff Fahey rubs his eyebrows on the inside of your computer monitor when you watch this movie.
Jeff Fahey is killing it.
He's a famous-ish actor, right? I don't think I've ever seen him in anything else, but he is to the max in this movie.
Yeah. I thought he was amazing.
Yeah. He's like, I'm gonna be... He's functionally, at the beginning, he's playing like a comedy mentally handicapped character. He's in a sketch comedy troupe at the beginning of this.
But like with occasional moments of genuine poignance.
Yeah.
Like when Pierce Brosnan's trying to convince him, like, oh, sometimes people take advantage of you, don't they? The way he goes, like, they do, sometimes yeah. They do. You're like, oh, Joe.
He's exactly halfway between an Oscar performance and Dumb and Dumber.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which brings me to another of my notes. Jim, I have a lot of notes.
Please. This is going to be a 2-hour-long episode.
I really love the cartoonishness with which almost every character is rendered, including the color scheme in the
colors,
movie.
Yes.
Yeah, like Jeff Fahey is dressed literally in overalls where one of the, like, he's dressed like Little Abner, but like if Little Abner was into grunge.
Yeah. Yes, exactly.
And like everything's red and green and yellow. Like there's so much vibrancy to the colors.
Yeah, I was going to say, well, that also it bounces back and forth to that dystopian future look and that blues.
Oh, yes!
It's like two different worlds. It's like you're walking into that other world.
Yeah.
It looks like an episode of Max Headroom.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly.
And that's when I was watching this.
Back and forth between the two.
It feels like The Shop is out of a super high production value TV show, and the rest of this is a $200,000 film. It's
Well, I don't think it's technically The Shop.
They call it.
I think we can call it The Shop. No, they're
The Shop is the place they go to
coordinating with The Shop.
Yeah,
The Shop is Dean Norris's giant face on a video monitor.
Yeah. Right.
That was amazing.
Yes.
The giant face, the Big Brother giant face.
So
at the end of
Dean
the
Norris in this movie,
like was sitting on the table.
Yeah.
Playing Jim, have you ever watched any of the Breaking Bad?
No, I've watched all of the one with Bob Odenkirk.
Better Call Saul.
But I don't think
yes. Well, I'm not asking because I care about Breaking Bad. I actually don't like Breaking Bad at all.
No, I'm just saying I haven't seen it.
Nerds.
But if he's in that other show, then I've seen him. That's all I'm saying.
I don't know if he's in the other show.
Well,
I haven't seen that one. But he plays in the Breaking Bad. He plays the like most shit kickery rough and tumble DEA agent who is also the main character's like brother-in-law, and so that's the wacky sitcom tension of like, oh no, I hope my brother-in-law doesn't catch me dealing these drugs.
Sure.
And he's like, I'm gonna catch the guy dealing these drugs. Hoo-ha.
Yeah. Yes.
But he's playing like
that was an accurate depiction of what would happen in that film. I watched most of the first season.
That's the whole show. You don't have to watch it now.
Yeah. Is that the whole show?
That's
but Bob Odenkirk's in there too sometimes, right?
That's
what
sometimes
nastier each season. I understand.
Sure.
I didn't make it past the first season.
Yeah, whatever. I don't care. But so my only point is that Dean Norris, I did not understand. He was always the best thing in Breaking Bad. Anytime I watched it, and I always loved him. But I didn't realize what range he had because he is in this movie playing the polar opposite of that character and doing an amazing job of just very calmly and quietly saying the most psychotic things as a giant face on a video monitor acting to no one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That scene where his huge face is behind Agent Timms, who's pacing back and forth in his projection.
Oh, yes.
Visually so strong.
It was Mark Bringleson, who's also really good.
Which also reminded me somewhat of The Prisoner, you know. Some things they had in there. Yeah, but go ahead. Sorry.
I was just gonna say Bringleson is actually a dude I know. We worked together on some stuff when I lived in LA. We're not friends. We like each other's posts on Instagram once in a while, but he's so when I watched this movie, I'm like, oh great, Mark Bryngelson, but I didn't know, and I love every choice he makes, but I didn't know if you guys would, so I wasn't going to mention it.
I love every choice he makes.
No,
I also thought he got the most terrifying moment of the film, when the film becomes a horror film.
When he turns into floating balls that never can heal or float away.
Oh.
Yeah,
I thought that was truly horrifying.
Right?
Because the other guys who get turned into balls
the
just...
Lovecraftian thing I was talking about before. So,
when you die, you escape, right? That's a thing that we talk about when we're screenwriting or watching things, right? You die and you're like, oh, it's awful, but then you're done. You're free.
Right.
But he's never free. He's stuck as a horrible... and he clearly feels that he's screaming. It seems awful.
Yeah, it's almost like if you ever saw the original Fly movie and stuff like that, when the cat was transported and you just had this ghostly meow going through thing, and you just felt this thing's moving through eternity and horror and despair. It's sort of like the same sort of feeling. So anyway,
so brutal.
But yeah, that sort of won me over there. That, and when he was being drawn into that giant vortex inside, once again, like the outer dark with the elder gods, but only it's technological worlds thing. So yeah, good use of that form. And once again, the way that it had that dreamlike effect.
Yeah,
with
it's so surreal, right?
Animation and stuff.
Can we talk briefly about how Job's hair has a circular evolution? Where at the beginning it's like Dumb and Dumber hair. He has that super crazy hair, and then he starts to get smart, and it gets super slicked back, and it looks disgusting. But then when he gets super smart and puts on his Tron suit, it gets crazy again.
Yeah.
What does that mean? It feels like a metaphor.
I think it's like a Nautilus pattern.
Maybe their stylist quit halfway through the film.
The slick back hair is part of one of my very favorite parts of the movie, though, which is after Jake punches out Job at the gas station, and Job is on the ground, and he lifts himself up and turns around and gives a fucking blue steel of death.
Yes.
He's 100% Zoolander in that moment, and the hair is all a part of it.
Yeah, he's angry Zoolander.
Yeah, I loved it.
There's this is just a thing I love. I could talk about things I love forever. My cats. There's when Pierce Brosnan takes him into the knot shop and sits him down in that machine with a chair that moves itself across the floor for no reason. It's a tracked chair. Those machines that are teaching him things, they teach him lessons and then they just spit CDs onto the floor, and those CDs sit on the floor for the rest of the movie. No one bothers to pick them up. Near the end, there's a shot top down and he's sitting in a chair just surrounded by piles of CDs. Was it just in 1992? Did CDs seem like a cool? Were they like, ooh, these are edgy? Nobody knows what they are.
That or the producers just didn't understand it, and they figured once you used them, they were used up. So
they're done.
Just kicked them out.
He's eating all the information off that.
Yeah, all the information's off of those now.
Is the sound in the director's cut as weird as it is in the theatrical cut? Because the sound in our version was bonkers.
Yeah, I thought the Foley artist had gone weird on us or something. I don't know.
Like in a way that was out of keeping with everything else that was happening?
Yeah, the footstep, different thing, different
Not
tones.
necessarily that was out of keeping with how strange the movie was, but just in a way where I couldn't tell if it was a deliberate choice or if they just didn't know how to do a sound mix. Because everybody, even when they weren't dubbed, seemed dubbed.
Oh, interesting.
And the mix was always really weird in terms of levels. When they go into virtual reality, the murky sound mix works perfectly because you hear all of these voices in the background of acquire, kill complete. But the whole movie kind of sounds a little bit like that, and it's disconcerting.
Yeah. Now, was it intentional or not? That's the whole thing.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I just couldn't tell. Maybe in the director's cut it's different, and that's maybe they
maybe they unmixed the sound to recut it and then just never bothered to.
But it was very very evident. Maybe it's just what we were watching.
Well, because there's definitely places in the theatrical cut, like I mentioned before, where they have to ADR stuff in because of stuff that's cut out.
Yeah, right, exactly.
There is I thought this is just another. It's a fully sidestep, but also sound related. There's one scene. There's like the scene where Job is driving with a kid and he listens to 8 seconds of 4 different cassette tapes, right? And that's the only time anyone listens to music in the whole movie, except for one scene where he's sitting in that giant learning room and just blasting some kind of rock, only so that Pierce Brosnan can walk up behind him and he wouldn't hear him, so he can turn around and have known psychically. I thought that was really...
I don't know if we had that scene either.
Oh, is it? It's a really inane, tiny moment.
Yeah.
Well,
Also, in our version, he's listening to CDs and throwing them on the floor of his truck, which tracks with the treatment of CDs throughout the movie.
Oh, maybe he does do that. Maybe that's what he does. I only remember him listening to something in a boombox that's on the...
Yeah. I just listen to them in little spurts anyway.
Yeah.
Well, I showed up in that other weird...
I did come into this with a chip on my shoulder, mad that this movie wasn't starring Matt Frewer. Because I thought all the movies starred Matt Frewer, but Jeff Fahey totally pulled it out.
He does a good job.
He completely won me over, even though I was already mad at him.
Can I make a Matt Frewer recommendation? I had forgotten until recently that he's the next door neighbor in Honey, I Shrunk the Kids. Totally worth it. Oh. Totally worth a rewatch.
Okay.
Oh,
that movie way weirder than I remember it.
Oh yeah, we did.
Written by Brian Usna, right?
Yeah, we talked in a regular episode. Actually,
did we talk about that? Okay.
But I don't think it ever got. I think it's still in our bits folder.
Well, great.
We
have
like
back someday.
A whole long thing where we talk about the genesis of A Honey, I Shrunk the Kids.
Because it's so strange.
And all the alternate titles it had that were weird.
Oh yeah. There's a really delightful scene when Pierce Brosnan is running. Oh, it's just after he starts to rent a car. Did you have that scene? Where he's running out of a hotel after having... Oh my god, he has that insane meeting in the shop where the main guy at the shop is just on the phone ignoring him and then whispers things to his assistant to say to Pierce Brosnan instead of interact... Because he will only interact through a screen, I guess. And then he goes back to his hotel room and punches Timms in the face and then runs down and people are chasing him and he starts to rent a car but it's going to take too long. So he goes down a hallway and a man comes up to him and says, "I'm shop, Dr. Angelo. You're going to have to come with me." I wrote that down because I thought it was funny. I'm shop. It's very... and the guy, he like... gives the guy's Uzi to just a champagne waiter and makes him hold the gun
cover
on him. And the guy's like, okay. He just stands there.
I think the only thing we didn't have in there was him starting to rent a car.
Yeah, I think they skipped that. Because he was going through the lobby the maitre d' or whatever, she calls out, "Oh, you forgot your messages."
Oh yeah,
that's
the car rental
when
lady.
The chase starts and he goes down and has the
I thought she's the hotel clerk.
Hotel clerk, yeah, right. Sorry. Yeah.
In the longer version, she's at a separate little car rental desk, and he spends a good 30 seconds being like, "Hey, do you have any cars?" And she's like, "I don't know." And he's like, "Well, can you check?" Yeah. And she's like, "Tick a tick a tick."
You mean they put that back in?
Oh yeah, it's in the one that I saw. Yeah, it's very long.
Sounds like a good cut.
Yeah. That's for the most part, I'm very supportive of theatrical cuts over director's cuts.
Yeah,
90% of the time they're the correct thing. But I feel like in this movie there was nothing that I was sad was there. That might be the only moment where I was like, yeah, this could be trimmed down.
Yeah, I will say that when we went through the director's cut on YouTube, I didn't light on any scenes where I was like, I wish that had been there.
That's fair.
Yeah, right.
But also, if I didn't know that it wasn't supposed to be there, I don't think I would have minded, because it was all stuff like the angry priest growling some more at Fahey for reading a book on math. Right. Like, this is the devil's work.
Yeah, and then his even more Irish brother is like, give him a chance. He's a man now.
Yeah.
That guy too. When Fahey needs to go to that building at the end, and he like psychically calls that guy, and he wakes up because he's been sleeping in his truck.
Yeah.
Yes.
He just wakes up and he's like, "Oh, sure thing." I love that guy.
Yeah.
The great Jeffrey Lewis.
Yeah, I want to watch a scene with him.
A ton of stuff.
And the cop that says bird bath. I want to watch those two guys. Just this town before any of this happens.
Yeah, that whole
hanging
scene
out. It could even be like My Dinner with Andre. It could just be those two dudes in a diner.
Yes, please.
One of them gets a burger. I don't know.
Yes.
I do feel like this movie is in some ways a sequel to The Real World, or a prequel to The Real World, because So the Lawnmower Man, the titular man, starts as this sort of intellectually and emotionally stunted child-brained adult man, and then gets smart. He gets made very smart, but never emotionally crests past, I would say, 14 years old. And then he just synthesizes at the end of the movie. He becomes the internet, and I feel like the internet is an emotionally 14-year-old smart white guy.
Very, very good insight.
Culturally.
I like that.
Yeah. That seems correct.
Yeah. So I think maybe it's real. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah.
So you're saying that Jim the Lawnmower Man is in your head now?
Yes.
Or on
Forever.
the phone. Yeah. Yeah, I saw the movie when it first came out years ago, and the only thing I remember is the end part where all the phones ring. And I didn't remember anything else about that film from when I saw it when it came out.
You didn't remember him turning into a digital sex monster in a lake?
That scene is pretty phenomenal.
I had nothing on that. That or either I turned it on at the end of the film.
It's so good.
Yeah. So everything that's animated in this film, there's a bunch of sequences where we're going through a weird animated thing, and then it keeps cutting back to them spinning around in their gyroscopes, and I was always mad. I was like, no, you stay in that animation.
I wasn't mad because I love all those shots too.
Yeah, no,
that's kind of what I just wanted the movie to be, and I would actually like to just go back and recut.
So it's
just
only people
animation
spinning around
and them spinning around.
Yeah,
and like
I would
just
watch
back
that.
and forth.
That sounds like a great movie.
Yeah,
and then I do love that he sort of threatens this. He's going to become the internet, and then all the phones are going to ring because clearly they were like. They just didn't have. It's 1992, and they didn't know a better way to show that someone was in.
My birth
the
cry.
Network.
Yeah.
And so then the movie just ends with that shot of a bunch of phones ringing, and it's so visually and auditorily anticlimactic.
Yeah.
And nothing else happens. You don't even cut back to Pierce Brosnan being like, "Dag nabbit!" It's just done.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. It's just
On to Lawnmower Man 2, Job's War.
Wait, is that real?
I think so.
Oh no!
There's like 3 of them at least.
Really?
Yeah. That's That's why I thought Matt Frewer was in it, because he's the Lawnmower Man in future movies.
What? Wow.
Yeah.
Jason, I'm skipping our next 2 movies and watching Lawnmower Man's 2 and 3.
This has just become a Children of the Corn, Lawnmower Man, and Genie podcast.
Yes. You can watch the Tommy Knockers without me.
Okay. The Nami talkers. They talk with their mouths full. Nom, nom, nom.
It's horrifying.
Or we should wrap this up soon. But I do have a couple of other questions for you.
Great. Yeah. Okay. I've said everything I need to say.
Just running through my notes real quick. Since her husband died, threatening glam stare, bird bath.
Well, you write your notes on paper. No, that's a phone.
No. Normally I do, but this is I didn't have it in my hands.
He was working in the dark.
Oh yeah, they're injecting him with nootropics. Isn't that a thing that right-wing hucksters sell? Like, doesn't Alex Jones have a line of nootropics?
I'm sure. Yeah.
Okay.
Nootropics. I had to look it up when he said that because I was like, I've heard that word, but I looked it up and it's just sort of a general catch-all term for drugs that make your brain work better.
Oh, okay.
So,
I didn't do any research. I just heard that and I was like, I think that's what Alex Jones sells.
Jones sells that. Yeah, I mean, he also sells things to protect your testosterone against radiation. But
yeah, that's true.
I'm sure some of the things he sells are nootropics.
So that made me laugh.
Yeah. Because in the current world, you're like, oh, he's crazy.
Oh, people do an amazing amount of talking to themselves in this movie.
I mean, it's mostly Brosnan, right? Just talking to his empty basement.
Well, but it's also, I mean, just like in idle moments. Like, it's emblematized to me by the priest running up to Job's room, and the entire time he's just monologuing to himself about, like, the things he's thinking about and what's going to happen. And I feel like that happens multiple times in the movie.
Have we ever talked about, Jason, one of the things that I've always loved about Fleischer Brothers Popeye cartoons is how most of the time anyone who's on screen is mumbling.
Yes.
Yes.
And I've always wanted to make a movie where that was just true. Just everyone you see, you also hear them all the time. And it's true. This movie sort of does that.
I mean, it's sort of why
well, you can't just walk silently through a hallway.
Yeah.
You
And
have
sort
to
of
be
why it makes
rumbling.
perfect sense
Rumbling.
that Altman was the one who made the
love it.
live-action Popeye movie.
Yeah, of course.
But he didn't even do it as much as the Fleischer brothers do. We just watched one the other day because it was on TV.
Sure.
And I was like, I'm going to show Gus his first cartoon.
You don't need an excuse.
Gus, watch this Popeye cartoon. Well, no, normally I take cartoons off because I don't want him getting addicted to them. But I was like, hey, it's
sure.
Popeye. Gus, we're
Right.
going to watch Popeye. And
Yeah.
he was absolutely absorbed by it. But yeah, the whole time, everybody, and especially Popeye, is just, what am I going to do? I'm doing this over here.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and he'll be like walking on one side and mumbling, and then Bluto will come on the other side and be like,
Yeah. I love it.
And all the asides afterwards. And so, yeah, it's wonderful.
My last question is, since you watched the director's cut, I can actually ask you this. We noticed towards the end of the movie when the mom and Petey drive Pierce Brosnan to the knot shop, that when she pulls up, there are inexplicably huge gashes in the side of her car.
Yeah.
And did something happen in the director's cut?
I remember seeing that and trying to remember what had happened to the car, but I felt like it made sense, but I do not remember why.
Because definitely in the theatrical cut, there is no indication whatsoever what might have happened.
It just
to the car.
drives up and the car is total on the side,
I feel like it made sense when I watched it, but I don't remember why. I feel like something happened to that car 45 minutes earlier, and I just accepted it. But I could have just been making that excuse in my head because I didn't want to re-examine.
I mean, either way, it might have actually happened. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. This movie...
I don't have an answer for you.
Okay. Yeah. Well, that's the mantra of this movie. I don't have an answer for you.
Yeah.
I
can
do
tell you the
officially
one
eat
thing-
crow, Jim.
Oh, yeah.
This movie was great.
Good.
I'm glad
you
we watched
liked
it.
I'll eat just enough crow to say that I believe you that it's not based on Stephen King. Having seen other Stephen King
It
things.
is not based
now.
on Stephen King. Are you going to read?
Well, in a minute, I'm going to read us a passage. I don't know where it's going to drop in, but I'm going to read
But I am glad
passage
that
of
you
what
watched
happens
it.
in the actual Lawnmower Man.
It is very good.
The one thing that bums me out about it is that when Job starts getting smart, he gives up comic books, which feels like a statement that I do not stand behind.
we commented on that, when it happened, yes.
That's a very that was a very standard. People forget now that Marvel runs the world via Disney.
Sure.
But that was like a really standard movie trope throughout, especially the 90s.
Yes.
Right.
But like into the 2000s and bleeding back into the 80s. I remember in that Spielberg
Where it's
movie
like
with...
a step of maturity is to move past comic books.
Or it's just a really
exactly.
easy shorthand for saying someone's dumb or someone's
Right.
childish. Like,
Sure.
it was... What was the Spielberg movie with Tom Hanks is chasing Leonardo DiCaprio, maybe?
Catch Me If You Can.
Catch Me If You Can, yeah. There's this big scene in there where I think one of the names that Leonardo DiCaprio uses is like Johnny Storm or something like that. It's like something from a comic. And when Tom Hanks, he finds out that he used a comic book name, and that's how he puts it together. It's like, comic book? He's a kid! Let's get him!
Whoa.
Like, that's how, that was like the shorthand move, so. And that's from
really
Spielberg.
frustrating. I tried to watch that movie, but I accidentally went into a theater where they were playing Catch Me in the Can, which is just a guy pooping for 90 minutes. It's not a good movie at all.
Do you have anything else for this movie?
No. I mean, I'm glad that I made you watch it, and I'm glad I watched it again, and I think that our audience should all watch it when they're not watching a bunch of Stephen King movies.
Yeah.
I'll say I'm glad that I sat down and watched it again, even though I couldn't remember anything except the last scene of the film from the time I watched it the first time.
Which, a nice thing is sometimes if you know the last scene, you know everything that's going to happen in between, but in this movie, no.
It didn't really matter.
There's no way to put together the middle from the beginning and the end.
Yeah. Plus, you have no idea what it meant.
I could easily talk about this movie for ages because it was so bonkers and there's so much in it. But we're reaching a reasonable amount of time for a podcast length. Dad?
Yes?
Jem? Thanks for joining us.
Jim, it was a pleasure.
It was so nice to have you, Jem.
It was good to be had.
Not inaccurate to Lawnmower Man. You have been had.
I like it when my parents can come by and see what I've chosen to do with my life.
in your head now. There's no escape. Ever.
Hell to the King is a special presentation of the Cinesthesia podcast, produced by Iguanadonald Studios, and distributed by Split Tooth Media. Music by Loyalty Freak and Grundly Jim. Hell to the King is recorded before a live studio audience in an abandoned theater in a small town that isn't on any maps anymore.
Pierce Brosnan recording a sweaty, shirtless monologue.
Oh, okay.
Cinesthesia.